Firstly, welcome. Now today, our main subject of our discussion is the Buddhist science and modern science. Now last more than 30 years, I have a serious discussion with modern scientists. In the past, mainly from America, like Richard Davidson and some other great scientists. And then European, Wolf Singer, like that. And then Indian scientists also. So since Buddhism in general, particularly the Nalanda tradition, investigation, logical way investigation, is the main sort of method to tackle our own emotion and also to know the reality. So therefore, the way investigation, without belief, investigation, with open mind, here quite similar. Modern scientists, they also open mind and investigate. Till, you see, through investigation, something become clear and convinced, then accept. That's what is in general, particularly in Nalanda tradition, similar way. Investigation. Even use Buddha's own word, many Nalanda masters investigate one particular Buddhist teaching, whether this teaching acceptable or not, through investigation. When they find certain Buddhist teaching, he taught particular audience according to their mental disposition, and certain things he taught. So that literally we cannot accept. So like Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti, these great masters of Nalanda, they rejected. So that is clear indication. See, we follow reasoning, investigation, not faith. So Buddha himself is made that Sulawa, Sujuga, Ranjuta. Sujuga. Mada, Gelondagon Canon, the session, the Levatala Maiba, launch a Christian means.
シャクソンご自身がおっしゃっていることですけれども、ビクたちを私の言葉をその通りに言葉通りに受け入れてはならない。その言葉を自分自身の知性を用いて、あたかも金職人が金が純金であるかどうかを切って焼いてこすって調べるように、そのように私の教えを調べた上で確信が持てたならそれを信じしなさいということをシャクソンご自身が述べておられます。
Analyze and verify yourself.
Right. 죄송합니다. 그러나 풍부간에 쿨 보내 강사고 송도가 아니 좀 전에 저니가 따와디 풍부를 전신에 다매 스송겨 봐. 다매 봐시. 모두게 떠지랑 다 풍부를 전신에 진두게 하래. 이 야마를 송겨야지 되는 것이 아니 감담나 봐도 되니 풍부간에 쿨체. 쿨 길갱이 아니 강사사에 숫샤니 어디 되게 풍부를 전신에 다지 이 송대도 또 간다 감도 몇 번 되니 송겨
そこで釈尊がこのように述べられています。例えば私たちには心と体の構成要素のというものが存在しており、それを私たちは五運と呼んでいるわけです。その五運はあたかも荷物のようなものであり、人というのはその荷物を担ぐ人で担ぐものであるということが述べられていて、これはこの無我に関する非常に荒いレベルの理解であるわけですが、このように
understanding about yourself. So the combination of body and mind. We also have a different self, and that is also taught by Buddha. This is Nairat Maya because the disciples had different traits, and in the way of teaching, the teachings were diverse according to each of the disciple.
Nangbe and Trudama Shinane, Chejidame, and Sungenti, the Usimniji, and Samsambe, Taru, the Samden Degi, Dodi Gondri, the Lung Kung Shani, Sungyarba. That the Umabe Kawajoshimar, the Samden de Karo. 세상을 리플로 쏘던 게 있잖아요. 좀된 대기 너도 공제 대회 나래야. 아니 천이 순간 남샤 송셰. 아니 치료도 뭐죠. 아니 샘된주 무슨 송셰버디 너든지 열때 이네 tel라 리뷰 누구도 쓰네. 아니 리뷰거. 아니 샘잠베. 아니 송진이도 그때 거는 일이야. 把日本干用多，知道日本早期下去下。
ですからこの仏教の哲学学派の中には4つの学派が存在しています。そしてその中で非常に重要な部分を占めているのが中眼派と有意識派の見解ということになります。そして有意識派では自分たちの意識というものだけは実体のある存在であるということを説いておりますが、そのような教えがまとめられているのが下人密教という教教になります。そして中眼派の方ではこのような実体性を認めるということは一切しておりませんので、この下人密教の中で述べられているようなものを例えばこの世の中に存在している現象というものを3つのグループに分けて、それぞれのグループごとにその事象が存在しないということを分けて
the non-existence of the phenomenon is recognized within the Chugan school. Those who cannot understand the deepest part so that they do not fall into nihilism. So in the consciousness-only school, the subject and the others do not exist separately.
So, since many years now, more than 30 years, I start discussing with scientists. The result, mutual benefit. We learn some useful information from scientists, the scientific finding. And then to the scientists, also you see, from I usually call ancient Indian psychology. Indian philosophy, Indian logic. You see, particularly psychology, many scientists really appreciate this ancient Indian knowledge about mind and the method to train our emotion, our mind. So then eventually, you see, we develop one foundation, organization, mind life sort of institution. We start. So that institution carry, from time to time, some discussions. Then also, I think in America or Europe, you see, occasionally they also carry these sort of meeting, discussion, including many college students like that. So now very purpose of this meeting, one, till later part of 20th century, the science, they mainly concentrate the field of matters, like nuclear particles, like that. They really concentrate thorough investigation about the deepest sort of particle, like the smallest particle, like quantum physics, and then so nuclear, then further deeper quarks, quark number 1, number 2, number 3, 4, not very clear. So the scientists, I really feel they have brilliant brain. You see, use concentrate about external thing. So we are human beings. We are sentient beings, not just a matter. We have this feeling. So therefore, now science should include investigation about mind, about consciousness. So the field of scientific research more expand, not only material thing, but also internal mind or emotion. That's also the one sort of the purpose or objective. Okay. Translate.
ちょっと加えますと、このようにこの古代インド心理学というようなものは
To add or repeat again, this ancient Indian philosophy in the area of psychology, the logics that developed in India, in combination with that, a large amount of information can be provided to us, and therefore how we can overcome our vicious emotion. Based on that, we shall have to learn more, and based on ancient Indian studies and in logics, in Buddhism, the so-called science of the mind, they have a very precious information.
Then, second, world passing through some kind of emotional crisis. Because of that, in 21st century, I think we human beings experienced a lot of suffering out of violence. The previous century, the 20th century, First World War, Second World War, then Japan, you experienced 2 nuclear bomb exploitation. I mean, exploit Hiroshima, Nagasaki. And then Civil War, Russian Civil War, Chinese Civil War. According to some historian, over 200 million of people killed through violence. So that immense violence really brought some good result or better world. And then some people may say, oh, that immense violence is worthwhile. But that's not the case. The beginning of this 21st century, still violence there. using weapon. So violence, counter-violence, endless violence. Violence means suffering and wasted money and human brain, human energy. So war is outdated. Now this 21st century should be a peaceful world, peaceful century. Yet there are a lot of problems because of the situation much change. But in human mind, still old thinking. Whenever some problem face, the immediate reaction is how to face this problem by force. That's actually outdated. So therefore, now we should not repeat events in 20th century, killing people, including nuclear weapon. That should be past, outdated. So therefore, now, you see, the education, to educate people, violence is outdated, not the right method to solve human problem. Then, when we say the peace, real peace, automatically related with inner peace, full of anger, impossible to achieve non-violence. So, in order to achieve genuine peace, firstly, we must develop inner peace. Similarly, in order to achieve demilitarized world, firstly, our emotional level should be demilitarized, internal demilitarized. So now, in that respect, of course, various different religious tradition also usually have some, also the possibility to teach. But I feel through scientific sort of research, anger very harmful for our body. Some scientists, they say constant anger or fear is actually reduce our immune system. So I think ordinary people, younger people, more scientific-minded people, if a religious person say, don't, how to say, don't sort of say, develop anger, they may not pay much attention. If scientists say, oh, anger, very bad for our immune system, then people more convinced. Okay. So, in order to bring peaceful world through inner peace, now scientists have, I think, more sort of effective sort of, what's it there? Or according to scientific finding, you can tell people inner peace is very important. So that is the one purpose of our meeting. So in the West, several times meeting. Oh, personally, you should translate. Oh, then okay. In the West, as I mentioned earlier, several times meeting with scientists and discuss these things. And then in Europe also, and India also. Now in Asia, now almost at least in Japan, now it's first time. And recently, one meeting with some scientists mainly from Taiwan and from America. Chinese origin from America, and then from Taiwan also. Then now here in Japan. Here is I have one reason. In the West, so when we discuss, you see, the compassion, these things, then also you see some sort of, eventually you see some sort of connection about Buddhist philosophy, these things. So that part I don't want to sort of spread in the West, because they have their own 1,000-year-old Judeo-Christian tradition. So out of my respect, so I don't want to, some kind of interfere or some impact in their mind. For example, many years ago, one Catholic monk, really wonderful, great practitioner, and he, when we often discuss how to develop patience and how to develop compassion, we can discuss. And then one day he asked me about shunyata, emptiness. Then I told him, don't ask this. This is not your business. The reason, you see, according to Buddhist sort of concept, Buddha also relative, not absolute. So then, if he feels some kind of doubt whether God is absolute or not, I feel it's dangerous for him. So therefore, I told him, don't ask that. So like that, when we serious discussion with scientists in the West, Western people, sometimes I feel a little uncomfortable. One occasion in France, Strasbourg, this is the local Buddhist organization, they asked me some teaching. I give some explanation. Quite big hall. I think about nearly 8,000 people there. So I feel a little uncomfortable. This is Christian country, not Buddhist country. So telling the Buddhist certain unique philosophical views or unique concept, I feel not suitable. So now in Asia, here, Japanese or Chinese, traditionally, Buddhism is our own religion. So therefore, I feel very happy, feel very free to discuss or carry scientific sort of meeting. There's no hesitation. So now I very much appreciate the organizer who organized now this the opportunity. And then the subject which we discussed with a scientist, mainly say 4 fields, cosmology. In principle, the Buddhist text also you see mentioned, the whole galaxies come, appear, and remain, and eventually disappear from space particle. Come, go, come, go. All these related with 5 elements: space, energy, heat, liquid, then solid. Go like that. But now from scientists, also the sort of explanation, Big Bang theory, is very useful. Exchange about Big Bang theory. So that's cosmology. Then new biology, neurobiology. Neurobiology, here, like yoga practice, you see there is some explanation about the neuron sort of system, nervous system. So neurobiology also you see some commenting. Then physics, quantum physics. Quantum physics. One my Indian friend, Indian nuclear physicist, he once told me quantum physics in the West something new, but in India 2,600 years ago already developed quantum physics. So when we discuss with quantum physicists, it seems to see these subjects are very familiar to us, like that. Then psychology. Psychology, I think ancient Indian psychology, before Buddhism come, already developed. You see, about, I usually call map of emotion. And with that, how to tackle or destructive emotions such as anger, fear, and then how to develop the positive, constructive emotion such as loving kindness or forgiveness, these things. So as far as the psychology is concerned, ancient Indian psychology is highly developed. The Buddha himself, a product of that sort of tradition. India, I think at least 3,000 to 4,000 years, you see, these, development of this knowledge. Among the Egyptian civilization, Chinese civilization, the Indus Valley civilization, I think India eventually, I think, highly developed. So sometimes, maybe little, presumptuous. What? Okay. Maybe I am Buddhist, so maybe a little prejudice. Yeah. When I discuss with a modern scientist, psychologist, then I usually, sometimes I express, compare ancient Indian psychology, modern psychology looks like kindergarten level. So India's psychology highly developed. So therefore, these are common sort of field. So I'm very, very eager to discuss like that. Okay. Then next, Dissolution.
Thank you very much, Your Holiness, for the wonderful speech. I am a neuroscientist myself, neurobiologist. And please allow me to introduce my research. I look forward to your comments. Ever since I was a child, what is a human being? I was deeply interested by Western science. I wanted to understand what human beings are. I have been researching for 40 years, and this is my conclusion. This is the title. Human beings is relationship with you, and relationship with you, and the relationship with the holy world. The conclusion is that we are able to live with the surrounding world. I will explain what I mean by triadic niche construction. Niche construction. I think it has come close to the teachings of Buddha. But I am analyzing the world in this way, and later on, I sincerely look forward to your comment, Your Holiness. As I said, I am a brain scientist, neurobiologist. Where am I? Who am I? In my brain, in the head. I think, I talk, I communicate. It comes from inside my head, which is brain. And there lies my feeling, my mind. Maybe not all, but I think most of the people think in that way. What is the neural system? What is the nerve? What is the brain? So this is an essential question, the function of our nerves. For living organisms, those that have the nervous systems, it's not all. For example, plant, it covers the world, our planet, but plants do not have the nervous system. Plants do not have brain. You might have thought everybody knows, but I don't think so. That's the important point. Many of the animals do have their nervous system. Why? Because animals, they come from the word moving organism, and the nervous systems maybe exist for mobility. So this is the slide that I have tried to show. There are unicellular cells, which is like a plankton and made from a little one cell, and there's multicellular, vertebrate, and primate. This is the evolution. What has happened? The conclusion is the nervous system, basically, it is for information processing. One example of unicellular is Paramecium. They don't have the nervous system, but they are mobile. If there is a food, they try to move and eat. If there's a predator, they try to move away. Information processing in the unicellular, on the cell surface, there is a protein, and they have the sense to receive the information. In the case of the Paramecium, they sense it between the cells, and they have the mobility. At the molecule level, there is a molecular chemical reaction. That's fine because they are a tiny organism like the Paramecium, which is unicellular. But for many animals on the left-hand side, they start to become symmetric. Same on the right and the left. When they have a symmetric body, they will have a body axis. And when they have an axis, they start moving in the direction of the axis. And then what happens is sensory organs, to collect the information, they come towards the front of the body. And therefore, we have eyes, ears, all our sensory organs tend to be concentrated at the top of our head or in the front of the body. And hands and the limbs and the wings and the feathers, they come at the middle of the body. And then there is a distance between the sensory organs in the head and between the limb. So the nervous systems connect. When the body becomes larger, the sensory organs and the motor sensors, they are far away. And that is why central nervous systems were developed, including the brain or the spine. The central nervous systems is the brain of the computer, in a sense, and as the body becomes larger, reaching the human side, we have the upper central nervous system, the head or the brain. That is, we have a huge ball at the top of our body, which is our head, including the brain, and there's our mind, our consciousness, our feeling that happens inside our head. Then, how do we scientifically study this human feeling? Basically, there are three methods that I will talk about. First of all, to factorize into elements, which is a typical scientific area, it is a study in the laboratory and to find out the key elements, and next to integrate and theoretically study and establish hypotheses. So this is still only purely a theory. In order to verify the theory, there must be a study in the field. I am in the level of the field research, and I will talk about this. First, about the elements within the laboratory, what can be studied. For example, I am interested in human being, and therefore monkeys are studied Normally, monkeys do not use tools, but they can train to use tools. And this is one example. This is Japanese macaque, a monkey 30 years ago, like a TV game. They do something with a tool. It is trained and looking from behind. This is like that. It is like a TV game. When something artificial is provided, the monkey thinks that it is physically there and tries to take it with a rake. Within 2 weeks, monkeys can be trained. So they do not normally use tools, but if they are trained, they become able to do. Something must be happening in the brain. And this is like a fist size, looking from the left side of the brain of the monkey. Somewhere here in the brain of the monkey, there is a nerve cell. This is a cell in the brain, and the activity and the function change because of training, and even the morphology, shape of the cell changes. A change within 2 weeks, which is amazing. How do they change? I will not talk about all the data, but for example, the hand. We have the hand. The hand information must be integrated. There's a palpation, the touch. You can see where the hand is. So that is the visual and the palpable senses. And we create an image of the hand in our brain. We print the image of our hand and we act on that. The image of the hand is created by the nervous system. Before training with the tool, the image was only by the hand, but within 2 weeks of training, the hand and the tool become integrated. When you think that the hand has become closer to the tool, or some will feel that the tool has become part of the hand. So how you recognize it? As the nervous system, the brain will record. Even if there is a tool, if the hand is not using the tool, hand is only a hand. So there is a flexibility in the brain. Thinking in this way, the tool is an extension of our hand. But it is not only that. We have the eyes, binoculars, telescopes, endoscopes. Those are extensions of our eyes. I wondered if monkeys could be trained, which was difficult. I thought what could be done, and I thought about a structure. I went one by one. This is a rake, and the mirror is attached to the rake, and you can see that they try to take the food. It is reflected on the mirror. So the eyes are not used. This was not too difficult. So by adding a little bit of tools, and eventually there's a camera at the pitch of the rake. It is just like an endoscope looking in the stomach. This is below the table where the monkey cannot see, but the monkey is looking for the food under the table. So it is externalization of the eye using a rake with a camera at the tip. Then what happens? So externalized own eyes. What happens if you look at yourself with your externalized eyes and you feel that you are connected from the past, present to the future? So you keep the memory. It is like a computer externalizing the brain. So this is a kind of a hierarchical structure in our brain. We try to memorize and use it in the future. Evolution. When we were a child, we learned evolution about the mutation, natural selection, that is evolution. We were taught when we were a child. But not only that, animals, the tools and the experience will be embedded, and the environment where we live, it's lots of tools, cars, buildings, houses. When they become part of our ecology, a niche is constructed. So ecological niche construction. So this is the first niche construction, ecology and environment surrounding ourselves. Difference between man and animal. Human make new tools one after another, and the environment change. Some animal change the environment, but it's only once. It does not continue. The human beings create tools one after another, which is different from the animal. So these are some of the elements. And then next stage is the systematic, logical analysis. What did I do? So animals, when they become familiar with using the tools, what happens? This is the brain. And this is the morphology, shape of the brain. By using the tools, if monkeys become familiar, then after 2 years, a part of the brain starts to expand, which means that there's a larger resource. So this is the neural niche construction. Comparing human and the monkey, the upper part is the monkey and the lower part is the human. As I mentioned, the nervous system that codes our body, it is somewhere here. This is the parietal occipital area. So the sensory feeling is here, and the auditory sense somewhere here, and the visual sensory, these are processed in this area, and this place integrates. We have a big brain, but as a parietal area, the monkey area grew. This is a three-dimensional area because they run around the forest. So three-dimensional movement is required with the monkey, and they have a brain like that. But there's not many parts in the body. Either you move your hands or eyes or the legs to move your body. That's about it. So the post-parietal cortex in the monkey, this is here. And human also have similar functions, but they're more space. That is because tools are used. The tool is part of the surrounding. As an extension of using the tools, there is the neural niche construction, and this part of the human brain has expanded. What has happened in this post-parietal cortex? Across the world, if you study the papers and what is processed in this part of the brain, for example, the time, social structure, concept, logics, and we shall hear from a physicist later on, including languages, mathematics. So high-level function, very human-like processing are done. But it is a metaphor of spatial construction, hierarchy of social classes, something behind the reality. It's all based on the space. So this is the cognitive niche construction because it is creating a new niche. So starting from natural selection, a niche are constructed, and there's a triadic, a three-party interaction between the three niches, and new tools are developed, ecology are changed, and this is a circular continuation, and human brain is made. That is why I call this triadic niche construction. And then mind and thoughts are created, culture can be explained, and as a biological function, these are the triadic niches. And then you might think, wait, ever since we were born, this is the learning plasticity. Maybe this is only the learning plasticity, how to verify it as an evolution of theory, but evolution takes 1 million years. This cannot be done in the laboratory, and therefore what can be done? Through the process of evolution, it's an interaction of ecology. So using monkeys who are close to man, there could be a theoretical verification, I thought. So in the Indian Pacific, this is a field test. This is a remote island. And I said that monkeys do not use tools, but there are some species who do use tools like this. This is by the seashore. This is a very remote, faraway island, but this is an entire family, and they are cracking oysters with the stone. The children are learning from their parents. They all use stone to crack open the oysters, but the same animal living in the mainland do not use tool. So it's the same primate ancestor of the human, but the functions and behavior are different if they are living in a different ecology. A smaller monkey, this is common marmoset. It is considered to be primitive, but no, this is very close to human, like a chimpanzee. even than chimpanzee. They have a social structure, linguistic structure very close to human. Why? This is the second last slide. This is the evolution. Like 5 million ago, it divided between human and chimpanzee. 2.5 million years ago, it divided between apes and man. And marmoset, 35 million ago, human and marmoset divided. But there's a missing information, which is the temporal spatial dynamics. So this is the evolution. These are extinct species and how they prospered and the thickness of the line. And in terms of the space, the monkeys generated here, and with the continental drift, it was divided into old world and the new world. And this is called Anthropocene. This is a man-made era, and His Holiness also mentioned about the issues that have happened. And Tuan Ren He, which is oneness of heaven and man, integration of man into nature, Tian Ren He. What do we understand? So the triadic niche construction, there's a circulation, and from monkey to human, this is circulating and circulating. It continues to grow. Our social structure becomes more prosperous and more growth with the growth strategy. We continue the circulation as the brain of the primate. This is our fate. However, the issue is there's a limit to growth. That is, we have used all the resources of the planet, and that is causing conflicts. So we are all concerned. But unless we believe that growth will continue, we cannot explain the reason of our existence. But if there is a limit to growth, what should we do? So my question is, niche construction, it is not expanding only within the existence of the space, but new axis is made, like a sense of value, indicator of happiness, which is proposed by religion, the meaning of existence. So the space can be expanded, then try to move towards that larger space. I think that is implied by my scientific studies. I believe that it is close to the teaching of Buddha, and I look forward to your comments later on, Your Holy Highness. Thank you for your kind attention.
Some Buddhist texts say we human beings come from the sky. I don't believe that. I believe evolution. Now the important is what is mind? Consciousness. According now, scientists, firstly, is beside the brain, no such a sort of mind. Mind is brain wave or movement like that. As I mentioned earlier, until the later part of 20th century, you see, scientists, only brain. Beside the brain, no mind. One occasion, I met one Japanese scientist. He also, you see, they believe just brain, no mind. Then in America, later part of 20th century, like Richard Davidson and some other, they experimented through mission. Person who have some experience is meditate 1 hour, 2 hours, like that. So while they meditate, they all different wires put on their head, and then check brain. So eventually, some of these brain specialists, including Richard Davidson, now he accepted there is mind beside brain, which affect our brain. And then furthermore, there are cases who already dead, clinically dead, including my own senior tutor. After death, clinically dead. But next 13 days, his body remained very fresh. So similarly, some cases 2 weeks, 3 weeks remain like that. So the classical scientists, there is no way to explain. Right. Now, these scientists, they already sort of carry some sort of investigation, such case. Brain stop. As soon as heartbeat stop, then blood circulation stop, then brain dead. Brain die, then dead. But body remain very fresh. So the normal classical sort of scientist, brain specialist, they cannot explain that. But it is reality. It happened that. So now, some scientists now pay more attention such case. So in India, we already have some, also small body to carry investigation. This is one thing. Then mind or consciousness itself. Among the scientists, when they say consciousness, mainly sensorial level consciousness, eye consciousness, ear consciousness, not yet understand fully about mind. For example, in dream time, the sensorial consciousness no longer function, but mind still there. So dreaming also happen. So consciousness, there are different levels. On grosser level consciousness, mental consciousness, when sensorial consciousness fully sort of functioning or alert. That's grosser level. Then dream time, sensorial consciousness no longer active, but main consciousness, mind consciousness, still there. Then without dream, more deeper mental consciousness. So those people who clinically dead, so sensorial consciousness gone, including body consciousness gone. But the main sort of subtle level consciousness still it's within the body. So as soon as that consciousness depart from the body, then immediately, usually sometimes that person remain like this, and body remain very fresh. As soon as the subtle mind depart, then some liquid come, and then go like that. So therefore, there is some also something beside sensorial level consciousness. Actually, our meditation training is not sensorial level, but mental level. So when we meditate, at the duration remain longer, then gradually the sensorial consciousness no longer active. That is just here. If my main mind is thinking on some other sort of subject, then eye consciousness, although seeing, never did to marwa, never did to.
If someone has walked in front of you, if you are in meditation, we do not even recognize someone walking in front of us. The five sensory consciousness through eyes and ears, when they are not functioning during meditation, where there is sound or if someone walks before you, you do not feel. That is the stage of deep meditation.
So like the non-Buddhist school of thought in India, you see, there is a sort of subtle level, one sort of soul we call Atma. So that is not depend on sensory level. So even it is not depend on our brain. So no beginning, no end. So on that basis, the theory of rebirth and memory about past life, they used to see explained on that level. So Buddhists do not accept the independent, separate thinking besides sort of this body, this brain, some sort of independent self, consciousness, not there. However, the very, very subtle level, very, very subtle level, at the time of dying, brain stop, this very, very subtle level consciousness still there. There is no beginning, no end.
非常に微細なレベルの意識ということです。
This is a very low level of sense.
This is the theory of rebirth, previous life, this life, next life. Now I have, see, I mean the evolution, I believe evolution. At the beginning, just empty space. Then gradually, you see, energy, due to certain energy, the heat develop. Heat, even as I mentioned earlier, heat eventually developed liquid. Liquid developed, then solid. Then gradually, certain sort of particle, you see, becoming the base or possibility to retain, to sustain, retain, to support consciousness. So these small animals, I think the more obvious movement, I think without consciousness, I think cannot do. So these flower, these leaves, 24 hours is some sort of movement, but not, you see, as sort of human movement. So that, I think, due to chemical and light and temperature, these makes sort of some movement. But then, like these monkey or these small insects, they have consciousness. We believe consciousness. Because of consciousness, you see, they also have the feeling of hungry attachment, anger. So there are more movement like that. Now I have one question. Since many years I ask these small insects, which level have the ability to show appreciation? The reason is when I mood good, and then no danger of malaria, then occasionally I give blood to mosquito. Then mosquito enjoy my blood, and the mosquito's whole body become red. Then a few drops come, then fly. No sign of appreciation. Whereas dogs,
それを称賛する気持ちが全くないということです。
you see, if you feed them, they appreciate the sign of appreciation there. So I'm wondering, what level of brain which have the ability to show appreciation? That's one question to you.
Oh, then may I respond by my guess? I think that comes from the ability to imagination. Well, the mosquitoes or dogs cannot imagine if not for your help. And you compare that and then appreciate being given different from what is not given. And that kind of imagination is lacking, well, slightly lacking in other animals. I think that is a human-specific trait which comes from the expanded part of our brain. This is my short guess kind of responses to you.
Here, one strange sort of phenomena. A few years ago, in Taiwan, one Tibetan monk, New Zealand, one Tibetan monk who, died after sort of death. His body remained very fresh.
ぬくもりを持ったままで、あたかも生きた状態のように。
The body was warm, and he did not look he was dead.
See, the way you see he dead, he remained like this. So the fourth night, his left hand moved and hold right hands 2 or 3 fingers like that. It happened. So when they told me, when they explained that, I respond, oh, pity, you should keep your camera. And how is the left hand because of the move? Otherwise, we also, you see, difficult to explain that. Because at the time of death, the body consciousness also used to dissolve. So all these movement, body consciousness or energy which cover body. So at the time, we used to call four emptiness at mental level. So second, third, first, second, around that, the body consciousness and the energy completely dissolved into subtle level. So you see,
消えるというよりは、その機能を低下する。
The function will decline, and a very low level of consciousness will be regenerated.
I want to mention is some Tibetan here. Chazanga and Kasa, Kong Lama Chiksan, Kusho Kasa, Kusho Tudensa, Tuden Troni, Nimish Shivadi 너무 그러면 라고 예면데 구조절체 라고 예배 이 터중다 좀 터중다 아니 신라 패지 공무디 여이나 또 순주대샤 그래서 그게 좀 lö주셔 다 지나서 빠르셔지 뭐 저거지 방구 차버렸어 쟤네다 디 간수 넘주다 라바니에 팀을 디디 쟤네 러시 주주 군도 가서를 루시 가서로 루시 가서리 찹식룸 가서로 찹식룸 가서도 전에 아니 구조자한테 매매 소리로 엔코 셀이야 내때 무리도 투좀 수사야 돼 아니 루 구조자한테 야 니저 사업 쳐도 와 내가 또 상담 가서도 와 지금 수치고 하지 어디를 소 가셔서
Tupten
there is a monk, and when the monk passed away, on day 4, at the right-hand side, the 3 fingers that His Holiness indicated, the 3 fingers was held by the left hand, and the body stayed in this way. But on the following day, the fingers situation had changed according to the report. So when death comes, we are always moving towards death. There are 8 mental phenomena. When the consciousness becomes weaker, we use the phrase dissolution of the consciousness. So the high level of consciousness declines and decreases. Then at a very low level, the consciousness it always exists, but we are not aware of that subtle consciousness. But the subtle consciousness will start when our consciousness declines, and therefore the sensory consciousness would stop functioning at death. And Lun is like a bioenergy, and the energy will stop. So that kind of situation happens at the time of death because at the most subtle level, the consciousness still continues, and that is called the bright mind. That is the mind of essence.
So I want to ask you, the very subtle level, or say the particle, say these animals which have some consciousness or some movement, so they are the brain because of formed by combination of particles, isn't it?
I think so.
So you see, they like rocks or these plants, and atomic level, quark level, same brain,
yes.
And these were plants. So the combination of very, very small particles combine, then at certain level, consciousness develops. So now what is the special thing? These plants, the combination of particles, but not produce consciousness. Then these small insects, you see, in certain level, you see, that group produce consciousness. Now, what is the difference? Well, what is the main differences?
What the main difference? As a biologist, I can reduce only to the level of the cells and probably the molecules or proteins.
Molecule, yes.
Containing the cells. But at the particle
but these
level,
also molecule.
Yeah, the particle level, I think we have to here ask for the physicist how those elementary particles compose the more complex molecules and what is the meaning in the universe. And His Holiness, could we ask the physicist to explain about it?
molecule.
Is it on already? Oh, okay. If you allow me, maybe I can express my point of view. So I think in biology and in computer sciences, people now have something called a neural network. So it's a model in which phenomena only emerge because of the existence of a large number of the entity, and through their interaction, some collective phenomena could emerge. So if we look at individual quarks and the interaction, we cannot see this kind of phenomena. But if we consider a large group of atoms and molecules interact in a particular way, then some phenomena can emerge. So my guess is consciousness could be something like that. But there's no proof.
So I think what is major differences are there originally, eventually you see the water comes. I think as far as I understand, I know, I think the sun itself, I think about 4 billions of years. Then on this earth, eventually, I mean, originally just fire. Then eventually that reduce, then gradually heat produce water, so water come. Then eventually solid earth come. So firstly, jellyfish in the water, isn't it? Then gradually that jellyfish, I think a little bit, active. So he want to see earth. So just jump. And then gradually they are sort of in water, just sort of wind. Then when they gradually reach earth, then these hands and the legs come. Then also you see they want fly more distance. So eventually you see wind come. Wings, shoba. So even today we can see some fish, little because of the wing, can fly. So these are evolution.
His Holiness, I think that's the evolution of the universe. That's evolution of the theories, and those theories changes from layer to layer. The elementary particles, molecules, heat, matters, and lives, and more complex animals, and that's our understandings. And I think you told about direction. Which direction are those evolution is aiming at or directing towards? I think that's come from the
much older than human being, and some of these trees or vegetable or plants much earlier than human being. They also, you see, through evolution, but never produce consciousness. These small sort of insects, some consciousness. Now, what is the major sort of factor? Differences. One have consciousness, one have no consciousness. And the physical level, same. Why?
I think there's integration information theory that explains that consciousness can emerge in the universe itself. And that's, I think, related to the origin of the universe, which the physicist is going to talk about. And that's interaction of the elementary particles And that's an emergent property in the complex system that you just mentioned. I think that's have a common universal theories behind it.
Thank you for the interesting discussion. We shall indeed invite Professor Cho Sun-chun because he is the physicist. His Holiness, thank you for the question. We will invite the physicist indeed.
Thank you. Thank Your Highness, the panelists, and all the audience.
Don't call me Highness. Then also need Queen. His Highness.
Your wisest. Yeah. Wise man. Okay.
Just a monk. Just a monk.
Okay, yeah.
That's good.
It's my great honor and pleasure to be here. As a physicist, I have been wondering how the universe works at a fundamental level since childhood, like Professor Asushi. So what intrigued me, I want to tell you something about what actually intrigued me to become a physicist and what I have learned since my career about the universe and how that has changed my point of view about my life and about my view about human society, etc., etc. And the question just was discussed actually was very interesting, and I will also have some example trying to illustrate the aspect of our emergence phenomena.
The world.
Yeah, so I just stress you some picture about the world. These are some of the things which, well, since childhood intrigued me, teaching me about the beauty of the universe. Yeah, so this is the famous Mount Kailash in Tibet, the typhoon which just happened this year in the summer in the Pacific Ocean. So moon and earth, just like this is the parent nature. The galaxy, so if you look far away, you see this kind of beautiful thing. Even sometimes with your naked eye, you can see the Milky Way. So what actually intrigued physicists?
I have one question.
Oh, sorry.
I have one question. No, like you see this, the whole sort of movement always go this way, not that way. Why?
This is something astrophysicists they are working on. This has to do with how matter formation, and we don't really know. I have to say, we don't really know. Yeah, of course, this is very important, but it seems the universe is chiral in many aspects. Chiral means we have left-handed, right-handed. If you look at many molecular structures, they are chiral also. At fundamental level, at the physical law level, there's no difference between left or right, up or down, or future and past. But on the other hand, there's some initial condition which make the universe that way. Yeah.
So in our traditional texts also, there's mention of the world, going in a anti-clockwise movement. So why is that so? He's always wondering, actually. Yeah.
So maybe there's some. Actually, I forgot to mention. I think sciences and religion, in particular Buddhism, are just are complementary views about the way we look at the universe. So we could teach other many things through the discussion. So what is even more fascinating is that the world is understandable in terms of some simple physical laws. So it's not obvious that why there has to be. I mean, you look at something beautiful, doesn't mean you understand it. Look at your wife, she's beautiful, it doesn't mean you understand her. But the world is understandable in terms of physical law. That's remarkable. So what I mean is that looking at the universe, you can look at the phenomena in terms of the distance, the length scale of the phenomena we are looking at. We can start from particles, which are the deepest, smallest level we can look at, 10 to the minus 15 centimeter. Atoms, bigger. Cells, about 10 to the minus 6 centimeter or meter. Human being, about 1 meter. Earth, 10 to the 6. solar system, galaxy, Milky Way, and the universe. So there's a huge span of length scale, but we can use the same set of physical laws to explain all these phenomena. So that's remarkable. Not just the length scale, but these are different phenomena, widely different. So galaxy and atoms, and these are very different things, but we can use the same set of physical law. So classically, we describe the world using two sets of laws. One is called the Newton's law of mechanics. The other one is the Maxwell theory of electromagnetism. Just to give you an idea, in daily life, you take a train here, you take a bus here, all of these are engineering. They are built on the foundation of mechanics, movement, engines, this kind of thing. And you have your cell phone, your Wi-Fi, you have a satellite system, you have a microwave. All of these are built on electromagnetic theory. It's built on the mechanism, how electric charge and magnetic current, they move around, interact with each other. That's how we build the world. It's based on mechanics and electromagnetism. So you can disrupt the world using a bomb mechanically, or you can use an EM charge, just stop all the EM system from working. You can also build a world like that, right? But on the other hand, if we go to subatomic scale, like the atoms or quarks length scale, we find the world behave very differently because the world obey a different set of law called the quantum mechanics. So I want to just tell you something, like say 3 points about how the world is peculiar from the quantum mechanical point of view. There are many things, there are textbooks, hundreds of textbooks you can read about quantum mechanics, but just 3 things. Yeah. First thing, I show you some picture here. There's a picture about wave, some picture about particle. So the first picture is like a typical day in, let's say in Shanghai. Okay, sorry about Shanghai. It's a polluted day, very polluted, with a lot of pollution, PM 2.5. So particle of a mini size, very small size, PM 2.5 meter size. So these are particles. And we also have a tsunami. So this is the second picture is a tsunami, is an ocean wave. And we have a Wi-Fi, these are EM wave. So most of the wave we experience in daily life, they are not fundamental, meaning they are actually motion of mechanical motion of a media. So they are not fundamental itself. You can reduce a wave to fundamental motion of particles. But there's one exception, which is the last picture here, the Wi-Fi, EM wave, electromagnetic wave. It's EM wave, we know they can propagate through vacuum without any support of media. So it's fundamental in itself. So this is what Maxwell has taught us. However, during the study of quantum mechanics, beginning of the last century, a Frenchman called Dissolution, he discovered a principle called the wave-particle duality. So what he found is that particle, actually, even if it's fundamentally, we believe it's particle, like an electron, they can process wave property. And vice versa, even if it's like as fundamental as an EM wave, like a light, they can process particle property. So duality, of course, is a very, I think, is also a very important concept in other aspects of human life, including probably in Buddhism, I would like to hear. But in physics, this is real. So, for example, we can do an experiment with this double slit experiment of electron beams. So you heat up something, that beam, that thing would send out electrons. And then you put a double slit. So put a slit with 2 holes in front of the beam, so the electron can then go through. And usually we would say, oh, if you put something in front of me and then you send in something, then you just see the image, the shadow of the hole you put. So 2 dots, right? But on the contrary, physicists discovered that you see an interference pattern, like what we saw on the right-hand side of this picture here. You see images of fringes of light and dark interchanging in position. So this interference pattern is a typical characteristic of wave. It cannot appear if you just have particle. As I said, if you just make a screen with 2 holes and then you send in some particle, all you will see is just the shadow of the hole you made. So this proves that electron does behave as wave. And vice versa, we have other experiments which prove that light behaves as particle. So that's the wave-particle duality. So what that taught us is that reality is not as simple as we perceive in daily life. You may think something is this or that, but at the fundamental level, actually, the representation is different. That's one message. Another thing is, another interesting thing about quantum mechanics is the uncertainty principle. So we often think we have a property. We can define this property as accurate as we like. For example, we can say the length of my hand. I can just use a ruler and then measure the length of my hand up to arbitrary precision. But quantum mechanically, or in physics, actually, any definition has to be operational. We cannot just imagine an operation. We have to make an operational definition. To make a measurement, let's look at this figure here, where the dot is an electron, where we want to measure the position. And we can measure the position of the electron by using a microscope, for example. So we send in some light and use a reflection, and then look at the position of the electron. Now, quantum mechanically, this light actually carry momentum because it's like a particle. So it will collide with the electron and change the position of the electron. Now, what happens is that if you want to make a very high measurement, precision measurement of the position of the electron, you need to use very small wavelength of the light so that you can have a very good resolution. But then quantum mechanics tell us that the momentum of the light will be so high, so that collision will be so drastic. In the end, you cannot determine the position of the particle. So in the end, people find this mathematical formula, so you don't have to, it's just an illustration about the statement. But what it really means is that classically, we may have some concept about some position or momentum, but in the quantum mechanics, you cannot measure both position and momentum simultaneously. You can only sacrifice one if you want to make a measurement, accurate measurement of the other one. So these are complementary. The third concept I want to talk about is entanglement. Entanglement is something, the word itself may not be familiar, so I look up the dictionary, Oxford Dictionary of English. According to the dictionary, entanglement means a complicated or compromising relationship or situation, or romantic entanglement, for example. You have your friend or your boyfriend or girlfriend, you have a very tight and intercorrelated relationship with each other. That's entanglement. Let me give you an example. Suppose you want to make cakes. You can make cakes. The cakes can be made in a circle, as a circle or a square shape. You can make cookies or cakes. Yeah. So suppose one day you decide to make cakes, and then you make two cakes. So you can either make two cakes which are both circle. So I'm talking about the first case here. Or one is circle, the second one is a square, or vice versa. Or make two cakes which are both square. And then you don't tell your kid which one you are going to make. You just say, I'm going to make one of these. No, so when your kid come back, you have two kids, they come back, they start to eat the first cake, they find that it's square, for example. Then do they know what's the shape of the second cake? They cannot know, because it can be any of these four possibilities. So if you say the first is square, it can still be the second one can still be a square or a circle. So that's the first case. In this case, we say the shape of the two cakes are not entangled. They're completely independent. You can also do a different situation. Sorry.
So I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
The whole galaxies, if you go like this, the atom, there is very, very small particle.
Yes.
Atom always move.
Yeah.
Or never stand still. So its movement go like that, or something uncertain.
This language is actually different from the language you use to describe macroscopic object. Macroscopically, we describe object moving. But quantum mechanically, we just have a probabilistic description of the object. And then
atom mechanic, you see, they investigate what is the ultimate reality. You can't find.
Yes. Okay. The meaning of reality is different from. So it's a very important question. Objective reality. So before quantum mechanics,
there's big gap, appearances and reality.
Yes, you can say that.
So
or
nothing
you can,
exists objectively.
Yeah.
According to quantum physics.
Exists objectively.
Nothing exists as appears.
No, I think we still say reality exists objectively, but just the meaning of objectivity is different from what we used to think. So we used to think the moon is there, even if you close your eye. It's there. But quantum mechanically, we think we need to perform operation to tell about whether the reality is there or not.
But moon, if we investigate the color, size, material, where is the moon?
We can perform measurement, and then we can know the moon exists there.
Moon's color, moon's size,
these are properties.
Moon's material.
Yes.
Besides these things, where is the moon?
We model the moon as a object characterized by this property. So in the physical language, they are defined by this property. Of course, if
also obviously, moon consists of particle. Each particle, not moon.
Yes.
Then besides particle, where is the moon?
By definition, the moon is defined by the collective system of this particle. So if without particle, we don't have moon, I think I would say. Sorry.
Ultimately, you cannot pinpoint something as being the moon when you actually dissect moon into its parts and
according to quantum physics,
particles and so forth.
Nothing. If we investigate, the finally light particle. Further goes nothing.
I would say the many concepts we used to think we can assign to system, for example, like temperature or velocity or shape or size or color, this property we can usually we define a system by saying what the property of the system it possesses. But in the quantum mechanical world, not all these properties can exist at the same time. So we can only talk about them. If you want to look at the color, then you sacrifice the other property. That's the uncertainty. Yeah.
So now, our whole galaxy is also moving.
Yes. Expanding.
So the direction basically go like this, or just straight, or go this. Our whole, this is because of the solar system. Go like that.
Yes. Expanding.
So some say eventually there is danger, clash. Another sort of galaxies is the one direction.
Yes.
Our galaxy is the same direction. So eventually, I think after billions of years, then clash.
No, that's of course we can have a model of a galaxy in which they collide. I mean, they expand and then other galaxies also expand and then they collide. But that's not the way our universe is behaving. So one way to think about the expansion of galaxy is that let's say we have a balloon. On the balloon, surface of the balloon is our universe, and then we blow air in the balloon just expands. So any 2 points on the balloon surface will be separated from each other as we blow more and more air. They will not collide, it's just separation. So we create more and more space in the universe. That's actually very interesting.
What is the causes of Big Bang?
I will try to talk about this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
The short answer is that we don't know. But of course, we don't know doesn't mean physicists or scientists have nothing to do. And precisely because of this question, we are working hard to try to understand. But we have more idea now, so I will tell you more. The frontier in the last 5 years or so, yeah. Okay, may I continue?
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah. So let me continue with this example about entanglement. In the first case, I was talking about making cakes, and you can make cakes in any different way. So in that case, they are random. The stage of the two cakes are not correlated. They're not entangled. But you can also decide to make cakes so that if I make the first cake a circle, the second one has to be circle. Or the first is a square, the second has to be a square. So in this case, the two are entangled. Because if you eat the first one, you find that it's a circle. You don't have to open the fridge to find out. It's already, you know, it must be a circle. So we say these two objects are entangled. Now, these are classical entanglement. Entanglement exists already classically. But in quantum mechanics, they become much more deep, this issue, and more puzzling, including Einstein, Podolsky, and Rosen. They wrote a famous paper in 1935. They challenged quantum mechanics. They think quantum mechanics is wrong by proposing this experiment. So they say, let's say instead of cakes, we look at atoms with spin. So the spin of the atom can be spin up or spin down. They can rotate. So spin up or spin down. Spin up just means, for example, rotating clockwise, or spin down means rotating anti-clockwise. So you can have two atoms with different spin state, one spin up, one spin down, or vice versa, spin down, spin up. So two different possibilities. So you make this preparation of the two atoms in your lab, and you don't tell people what are the states of the atoms. You just know one of them is spin up, the other one is spin down. And then you send you keep one of the atom in the lab, and the other one you put it in the rocket, and then send it to the center of the universe, light years away. Now, what is peculiar is that at this point, we still don't know the state of the. We still don't know the state of the spin, but if we decide to perform a measurement of the spin, let's say of the atom at the laboratory, we find that it's spin up. Then immediately you know the spin of the other particle at the center of the universe is spin down. And this doesn't need any time. It's instantaneous. It doesn't need any energy also. So this is contradictory to our common sense. If I want to tell you something, I need to use some signal. The signal will have to travel with some distances using some speed of light. So there will be some delay from the cause and the effect. But in this case, quantum mechanics tells us that you can have a cause and effect which is instantaneous. This is very peculiar. So Einstein, English is good. She says this is a spooky action of quantum mechanics. And he thinks it's wrong. But after many years later, about 30 years ago, people were able to do experiment, actually confirm quantum mechanics is right and Einstein is wrong, and we do have this spooky action in action. And many of the technology we are talking about today, like quantum computation, quantum computer, they rely on this spooky action of quantum mechanics. So quantum mechanics were well developed in the beginning of last century. Of course, this doesn't stop people from doing further work. So we have quantum mechanics, so we want to understand the fundamental structure of the universe. So I want to just spend a few slides to tell you our view about the universe today. So according to the theory we have today, we have the universe is... The world is made of matter and like quarks and leptons. So these are the table, like the chemical table, periodic table of chemistry. And they are the particles themselves. They interact with each other with some forces. Those are the other particles which are listed here. So the name you don't need to know. Just like when you look at a chemical table, there are many elements there. You don't really know what they mean, but they are there. So you know we have an understanding about the world of the universe in the particle universe using quantum mechanics. Apart from these matter and forces, we also have gravity.
Gravity, not quantum, sir.
Yeah, but very importantly, gravity is, we have the theory we have for gravity is just a classical theory. It's not a quantum theory. So the reason why is that so is because it's a very difficult problem. We don't have the good understanding about that yet. Now, but why do we need to understand quantum effect of gravity? There's a very good reason for that. In ordinary level, of course, gravity is weak, and we don't have to really think about quantum effect of gravity. But this is our current understanding of the universe. So the universe got expanded from a Big Bang in the beginning, where space and time are so small. Basically, it emerged from nothing, a very high energy state without any size, and then expansion, and then come to the universe we have today. Of course, in this period of time, structure have to form, and then galaxy have to form, and then in some way they form spiral galaxy. All these are structure theory of the universe of matter formation. So these are another subject.
Strings, string, not particles. Yes. String.
So the reason why it's difficult with particle theory to understand this Big Bang singularity is that, as I said, singularity itself means there's no space and time. It's just a singular point. So if you use a singular point, you try to use a particle to probe, to move around in this singular point. It's very singular. So nothing can be done mathematically. But on the other hand, if you use a string as an extension, it means you cannot really string the universe to a singular point. Big Bang, the model we have today about Big Bang singularity is an approximation, according to string theory. In the beginning, there's still a finite size, some initial state. It's not really singular. So in technical word, we say the singularity is resolved by quantum mechanical effect. Just an uncertainty principle, we cannot really localize things to a very small distance, to zero distance. So quantum mechanical effect of gravity adjusts itself so that we have a resolution of the singularity. So what is string theory? String theory just means that at the fundamental level, we don't really have particles. Particles are replaced by tiny little loops called strings. Ordinarily, if you have a very high powerful microscope, then you can resolve the energy and then resolve the details, and then you can really see the structure of strings. Otherwise, you will only see approximately. You have something like particle. So according to string theory, electron, quarks, they are not really particle. They are just approximation image of strings. If you go deeper, you will find that actually they are loops with finite size. Another very interesting property of a string theory is that it can only be formulated in 10-dimension space-time. So we live in three-dimensional space with one-dimension time, but according to string theory, we live in 10 dimensions. So where are the extra dimensions? I make an analogy here. Suppose we have a universe which is just like a tiny rope of 2 dimensions, a length which is L, which is very long, and then with a circumference which is very small. Then you are a living organism in this universe. You can only move around in the length direction. To see the circle is very difficult for you because you have to shrink yourself to see the circle. You cannot really see it. So according to you, you will say the universe is actually 1 dimension instead of 2 dimensions. So string theory is like this. We say we have 4-dimensional space and time, but actually there are 6 extra dimensions. They are very small. It's so small you cannot see it usually. But if you have very high energy, then you can see it. So these extra dimensions, they're important to our world because they can tell us details about how our universe works. For example, why do we have electron, or why we have this kind of interaction, etc., etc. So I will just spend 3 more slides to tell you something about the space-time, how space-time become so peculiar because of the quantum effect on the geometry. In Einstein theory of general relativity, gravity is the result of geometry. So for example, we have this picture you may have seen before. You have the sun deformed the geometry of space and time, and so it deformed the trajectory of a particle moving around. That's called a bending of light. So light doesn't necessarily move in a straight line, but it can be bent because of a heavy object around. And this is indeed observed by people. So gravity is geometry. This is a keyword. And now if you want to study quantum gravity, that means we have to study quantum geometry. So what's quantum geometry? I told you already, quantum mechanics has a very peculiar property of uncertainty. So that means quantum geometry also is uncertain. And if you apply the analysis, then you will find that you have uncertainty of a relation like this, delta x, delta y thing, and geometry has really become quantum. Not just become quantum, geometry itself become an illusion. So one of the very interesting principles in the formulation of string theory is that gravity itself is not fundamental. Gravity itself is just emerged from something more fundamental. Living at a more fundamental level, gravity is just a representation of quantum mechanical degree of freedom. This is called the holographic principle. So I make a picture here. So you have a person holding a ball. The whole room is has a lot of complicated thing happening, but all of this can be represented on the surface of the ball. So this is a representation of the real physics in the space using two-dimensional hologram. So this is called the holographic principle. Because of this holographic principle, now we think space and time itself is not fundamental. It's due to some entanglement, quantum mechanical entanglement of the process in the hologram itself. So, roughly speaking, we have two ways to think about gravity. We can either think about gravity using the Newton's law, Einstein law, Einstein equation, as attraction of a massive object, or you can use some holographic representation of gravity. In this representation, we don't really see gravity. We just see quantum mechanics, entanglement. So that leads people to have this formulation about the world. So this person here is Wheeler, is a very famous physicist. He has an idea, very philosophical. It's it from bit. It for him means universe, meta-universe, the whole universe. From bit is from quantum mechanics, from the quantum bit, 0 and 1, and from the relation between all these quantum bits. So for him, actually, for physicists today, we believe that the world is information, quantum information known in origin. So the world is represented through the relation and quantum information between the bit which compose the universe. So with this very short presentation, I will leave you some questions, which I just throw some questions where we can discuss, and with we call him monk, I'm sorry, with the wise man here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The question with the discussion with the wise man, we would like to entertain questions or have discussion after the presentation by Professor Yoshikawa and Professor Chu. Thank you very much. We will have time for questions and answers later. I would like to now invite Professor Yoshikawa.
Thank you for the introduction. I am Yoshikawa. Your Holiness, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I will talk about the psychological science of meditation. I am from Kokoro Research Center, at the Research Center of Mind at at Kyoto University. We have heard your excellent speech. You have mentioned that in India, for many years and millennium, they have been studying, and the modern study on meditation is lagging behind. Therefore, I hesitate, but please allow me. As was introduced, this is Kokoro Research Center of Kyoto University. We study psychology, neuroscience, Buddhist studies, neuroscience amongst others, and Buddhist studies. There are multidisciplinary studies related to the mind. The mission is to conduct interdisciplinary research, to outreach and disseminate, and ultimately to be a contribution to society. At our center, back in 2014, in April, with His Holiness, together with Mind and Life Institute of the United States, we co-organized Mapping the Mind. It was a 2-day dialogue with 12 scientists. The day before this dialogue, together with His Holiness, there was a dialogue between Japanese young researchers. This is the photograph on that occasion. I am not young, but I am in this photograph. That is because I had the honor to meet His Holiness. On that occasion, there was a young man, a researcher, who was here, and this is Mr. Fujino, whom I will talk about. This is Fujino. Today, he is in the audience. Your Holiness, after the discussion, if you can please touch his hair. If you touched his head, the palm on his head, and you said "ngapa, ngapa," do you remember? He has not changed his hairstyle because you touched his bald hair on the head. He said that when he sees Your Holiness next time, Fujino wants you to remember him because of his ball, the bundle of hair on his head. He started working at the healthcare company, but he experienced a Vipassana meditation for 10 days. And because of the Vipassana meditation, he understood the positive aspect of meditation. He thought he cannot continue to work in an ordinary business. He joined Kyoto University. He is now a researcher on meditation and brain. Fujino is working on his doctor thesis. So that was in 2014 when he joined the dialogue. The meditator and the researcher, he was thinking hard whether he can do both. Meditation is very subjective experience, but science and researcher must be very objective. Therefore, he was wondering hard, but he joined the Mapping the Mind dialogue, and His Holiness, your message made his mind. Your Holiness, this is what you mentioned. Let me read the message for the audience. Genuine scientists, also like genuine religious people, have open mind without their own desire or wish. Just objectively observe and analyze object. That is the only way to know reality. So if scientists train mind with meditation, it is much helpful to know reality. Your Holiness, this was a very kind message. In 2014, Fujino listened to your word, and he became a researcher of meditation to study the area of psychology and brain science. And Fujino has conducted a study based on his personal experience of meditation, which I will introduce. In July, this research was publicized on scientific reports. But this is the first ever MRI research of the brain in Japan by subjecting meditation practitioners to MRI brain test. Through this study, and he is using his own meditation experience and has designed his experiment and studying. That is the big characteristic. Therefore, let me introduce his own experience of meditation. For the last 8 years, he has joined 9 times a 10-day meditation course. He joined a 10-day meditation course 9 times and 1 time on a 20-day meditation. The total in the last 8 years is 3,000 hours of meditation. It is samatha meditation and vipassana meditation. In the field of cognitive psychology, samatha is called focused attention meditation. Vipassana is called open monitoring meditation. Focused attention meditation is written FAM. Open monitoring meditation is OMM in the abbreviation. In the focused attention, the attention is concentrated on natural breathing, respiration. In Vipassana or open monitoring, they try to become aware of the body sensations as they are. In his meditation experience, he understood the difference subjectively between the focused attention and the open monitoring meditation. Because he felt such a difference between vipassana and samatha, he thought that during the different meditation, the brain activities must also be different. At the same time, in the case of open monitoring, vipassana, which is to become aware of the present experiences as they are, he thought that this was particularly important, and therefore he decided that he would like to explore this area. In front of His Holiness to explain about meditation, I am very nervous because you are the expert. But based on his own experience of meditation, he designed his experiment by way of cognitive psychology. First of all, focused attention meditation. That is, the big characteristic is to specify a particular object of attention, like respiration or breathing. By specifying a particular object, the meditator will be free from disturbing stimulation, such as other senses, emotions, or thoughts, and can concentrate the attention over the specified object. This is called increasing selective attention. On the other hand, in the case of open monitoring meditation, it is to become aware of the present experiences, that is, being felt as they are, and therefore the senses, emotions, or thoughts, it will all be felt. In the cognitive psychology, we talk about weakening selective attention. But regarding this process, within psychology, not much is known. So in the case of open monitoring meditation, what is happening in our mind, scientific research is still required. This is the experiment itself. I shall try to be as simple as possible. Please look at the slide. So this is the experiment. There were 17 participants in the meditation, and the average hours of meditation, 921 hours during 3 years. The experiment is as follows. It is very simple. Each meditator will spend 2 days, and they will experience both a focused attention meditation and open monitoring meditation. But before the meditation, during the rest, and also during the meditation, MRI measurement is taken. The point of this experiment design is right before measuring the brain activity during meditation, there is a meditation of 60 minutes in a soundproof room. That is because Fujino himself, based on his own experience, he understood that in order to reach a state of deep meditation, a certain time is required. As for myself, I do not know much about meditation. As a psychologist, if I design an MRI experiment, it would be difficult for me to think about 60 minutes prior meditation before 6-minute testing in MRI. But Fujino, because of his experience, knew that in order to reach a deep state of meditation, he knew that at least 1 hour, 60 minutes prior to the MRI test will be required. And before the results, if you look at the slide very briefly, this is how MRI data is analyzed. So in the deeper part of the cerebral cortex, we looked at the visual cortex and the striatum. On the right-hand side is the front part, and the striatum is shown in the red. The surface, this is covered by the cerebral cortex, and in the deeper place, there is this striatum. The area of striatum, multiple areas, there is a circuit between areas with different functions. It plays a very complex role. Motivation of human, attention of human, control of emotion, control of memory. Striatum is related to a large number of complicated brain functions. According to this study, focusing on the striatum, functional connectivity was analyzed in order to study the brain activities during meditation. So, first of all, some results. Of course, out of lots of findings, only part of that. So between focused attention meditation and open monitoring meditation, coordinated activities between the striatum and the visual area was observed. The coordinated activities is intentional attention, control over a specified object was involved. These coordinated activities, in the case of focused attention, it increased. During open monitoring, it decreased. Which means that in focused attention meditation, selective attention is strengthened. During open monitoring meditation, selective attention is weakened. That is supported in terms of the brain activities. Further, retrosplenial cortex. This is another area, retrosplenial cortex, and between the striatum. The coordinated activities between striatum and retrosplenial cortex was also different between the two meditations. This retrosplenial cortex, based on the past memory, when you are thinking, the emotional element is provided by retrosplenial cortex. For example, in the past, you were angry, and from your memory you recall that you were angry, and then once again you re-experience the anger. You once again become angry because you recall you were angry in the past. Then retrosplenial cortex becomes very active. This retrosplenial cortex and the striatum, there is a coordinated action during open monitoring meditation. This activity was decreased. Further, what was interesting was this graph, the horizontal axis shows the length of the meditation. Each of the dots shows the individual person who is meditating. So this retrosplenial cortex and the hours of the meditation, there's a negative correlation. The longer the meditation, the activity of retrosplenial cortex and striatum is low. From these findings, by open monitoring meditation, the emotional re-experience of your memory of the past is likely to go down. I had to rush through, but this was the introduction of the research by a researcher who practices meditation. Fujino, based on his own experience, he raised the question of what it means to become aware of the present experience just as they are. In open monitoring meditation, he decided to study open monitoring meditation by comparison with focused attention, and he designed the experiment so that prior to MRI measurements, as long as 60 minutes of meditation will take place in the soundproof room. It seems that what is understood by this study is to become aware of the present experience just as they are, that the subjective experience, it not only decreases selective attention, but also reduces emotional re-experience of memories of the past. That has been the indication of this experiment. And therefore, in this way, may I ask 3 questions, Your Holiness, because of our research. So, by open monitoring meditation, emotional feeling might decrease. Then, what happens to our compassion feeling of compassion, empathy? Compassion and empathy is what we want a lot. Would open monitoring meditation reduce our compassionate feeling? And number 2, what is the important thing when we examine first-person experience from a third-person perspective? The third question, if you can give some advices to young researchers who want to be a meditator and also a scientific researcher. There are not many in Japan, but just like Fujino, going forward, our younger researchers want to practice meditation, but at the same time, they wish to become scientific researchers at the same time. Therefore, Your Holiness, if you can give advice to these young researchers, these are the 3 questions to you.
신내도 항동사 다녀야지 떠다 ringa 아예 something 대 다녀야지 조금도 조금스러워야.
So perhaps the usage of the terminologies like shamatha or calm abiding and vipassana or special insight may His Holiness got this impression that maybe these terms should not be used in this case. We could just use the terms like analytical meditation for OMM and the focused or placement meditation for the FAM.
항동스럽도 양 된다. 지라고 질 삼단. 배는 시라가 나버진 항동이네. 거에는 지 케랭 지중지 삼루지 단에 거르다. 아니 지된 레벨 항동이는 돈이 공부하래. 저도 조금도 조금씩 약실시리.
So when we talk about special insight meditation or vipassana, we actually have to have a specific select a specific focus or object that you can focus on. And then you actually try to check what it is and how it becomes and so forth. Whereas in the case, even in the case of traditional meditation practices, where you see certain experiences of a higher planes of existence to be more peaceful compared to the desire RAM experience. And so in this way, you can make a distinction between the higher experience of the higher realms and lower realms. And therefore, there is always an analysis that goes on in this kind of meditation. Therefore, His Holiness prefers to use focused meditation or placement meditation and the analytical meditation.
For example, analytical meditation, actually the scientists or researchers use that, analyze. Then the open monitoring meditation may reduce influence of emotional feeling. That is the word emotion. I remember many years ago discussed with late Varela the definition of emotion. Emotion is so so today in the Sanje Sale emotion you chow those touch.
So during a discussion with late Francisco Varela, who was a neurobiologist, I think, and about emotion, and His Holiness and Varela came to the understanding that emotion is a kind of a feeling or sensation which is intense. So in that case, even the Buddhas, could have emotions. So
emotions,
So emotions should not necessarily imply some kind of a negative kind of outlook or feeling or attitude, but even positive ones. It could be there.
What is 그래, 당구들 진짜 배는 인지도 샤샤나 인지 권네 인지 숙처럼 저거로 그 축스 인지 제가 dim 말다 도망가도 투중기 고지래 되네 거 양의 양도 쌈네 아니 생그 띵네 그게 이지다 지다 tel려야 돼 가서 믿어봐서는 배 인지로 tel배 르케레서지 딘제글로티 무튼 고민이잖아요. 아니 그 지금 좀전 시우삼 담고 봐. 지금 인지 삼바 독 깨버다가 초쇼 차고 해야 되지. 용대 그러고. 그래디 그 전적 숨지사들이 제 그거 좀제 통 그거 좀제 통네 이제 로리야. 지금 인지 초로 쇼 차고 슬레베 그들 이양 대강라 중세네 어 전적 숨지기 통네. 다 지금 개로 강도 강에 있는 제조 성장을 공주서도 전적으로 리그도 와.
So in any kind of emotions or experience that we develop through cultivation, you need time. And therefore, what you need to do is, first of all, learn about what you are going to meditate on, like compassion, for example. You need to know what compassion is, how you define it, and how to actually cultivate it. What are the processes that you should, go through?
In order to practice compassion, more enthusiastically. You see. Unless you see the value of compassion, otherwise, 직다스 컴플렉스로 책을 용시하지면
Yes. So compassion, what we are talking about here is more deeper experience, not just, kind of a temporary kind of experience of compassion when you see somebody suffering. Oh no, like kind of, how bad. But here we are talking about more kind of a cultivated state of compassion. For that, first of all, you'll need to learn what it is, how you, cultivate it, and so forth. And then what you have learned in that those techniques should be integrated. Yes. And so here you need to, in order to be able to cultivate it, in your study, you should know what are the pros and cons of developing the compassion or not. And so by understanding this, through this kind of method, then you gain conviction that compassion is something that is positive, that you need to develop and so forth. And therefore, you put effort in over time. And once, it's not just going to happen at one stretch of time like that, but you need to familiarize your mind with compassion over and over again. So in this way, what you have is, on the one hand, you are doing analytical meditation. You see the pros and cons and, how wide you should develop the compassion and so forth. And then once you feel convinced, you try to actually integrate it within yourself, focusing your mind on compassion, seeing somebody suffering and feeling, empathy or compassion, or you just cultivate it. And then after having gained some kind of a stability in your meditation, then again, you can go back to analytical meditation to strengthen your experience of compassion. So in this way, after a while, it becomes very stable, so that it could be very spontaneous. When you think about someone suffering, it automatically arises. The compassion happens there, and that kind of compassion is cultivated once. And so in this way, what you have is both the analytical and the placement or focused meditation, even in the case of cultivation of compassion. So in any kind of a positive, wholesome thoughts, we need to have both the analytical and the focused meditation. They combine them.
What is the important thing when we examine first person? I don't know. What is the meaning? I don't know. As a scientist, it is important. As a scientist, 맞아 제가 체인지네. 로술 내가 빼게셔 버다. 로술 내가 사지. 가서 초소통에 sem동에 시원 남녀 도움이 줘야 되지. 그래서 간다 로 초소통나 소수 대왕기 다디 인구그리 삼에서 지지 이나 삼에서 지 토네 잡아잖아. 그게 된도 심심시 말에 로술 내가 거래. 손에 로된 되요. 너무는 저셔서. third person So in this kind of investigation or research that you're doing, the third person always must be unbiased in his or her approach. Otherwise, if the third person says that this must be so and so, if I do this experiment, it must come, the result must be so and so, or something like that, then it's already, he or she is already biased. That cannot really help in the investigation. So always it's important to have an unbiased attitude. And as it is said in the traditional text that, even in terms of developing peaceful mind or peaceful experience within your mind, you need to, if you are biased, you cannot have that. Yeah.
And so also an Indian master has said that, someone, a disciple, for example, must be unbiased when he listens to the teachings, because an intelligent must be wise, unbiased, and then must have the aspiration to actually pursue the path.
Dishang, could you give some advice to young researchers who try to be a meditator as well as scientist? His
Holiness thinks that Master Nagarjuna, who lived after the Buddha, was both a meditator and a scientist. Because what he had done is always investigate and analyze the teaching of the Buddha. Even the words of the Buddha himself, he actually analyzed. So if something can be proved, so Master Nagarjuna, what his approach was, if a teaching of the Buddha it could be proved through reason, and there's no undermining it from reason, then he could actually, he says he could accept them. Otherwise, if the teaching itself, some teachings which are undermined by reason, he says he had said he could not accept them.
근데 있는 날인데 아니 개완소 토마 있는 달루루 야세드 저기 리포코레 토네 아니 남샷 때는 법용구도가 서다 리포데키라 개시부샤용 인도산에 쇼고 초나도 쳐라그 세매숑 로스 제제 아니 개시 시고스 세매숑 로스 제제도가.
And so because there is so much emphasis on reason and logic in the teachings of Master Nagarjuna and his followers and disciples, later on in the Buddhist tradition, two masters like Dignaga and Dharmakirti actually came up with a text on logic and epistemology separately from other teachings. And then also another later master, Shandarakshita, also used a lot of reasoning to try to prove the truth of the teaching of the Buddha.
레자가 개심이나 지 가서 그게 된지 고라야를 판도 쉬우셔서래. 다 간다데 가서 다 자리고 싶게려고요 말에. 다 간다 참아리고 개치무치려고도.
And so in the traditional categorization of subjects to be studied in Tibet, we actually have what are known as the 5 major sciences or objects of knowledge, fields of knowledge, which are which consist of arts and crafts, and then also medicine, or healing, and then learning Sanskrit. Of course, if you know Sanskrit well, perhaps it also can be helpful to understand the teaching of the Buddha. You may get a better understanding as well. And then there is also logic. So logic is considered very important. And the 5th one is, of course, the inner science, which refers to the study of Buddhism and Buddhist philosophy.
셴 차르지야 참아르고 거랬어. 아니 소수주기 댄진 차르지야 참아르고 구매해서 너로.
So some Tibetans have actually said that logic is something that you can use as a tool to argue against and defeat others in your debate. And in order for your own inner transformation, there's not much need for it. So this is totally wrong.
That's totally wrong. All these destructive emotion, say through prayer, through wish, not change. argument with the, for example, ignorance. Ignorance can remove or defeat through reasoning, through wisdom, not through prayer, not through the symbol or the shamatha meditation. Will not
focused meditation.
A single-pointed meditation will not reduce the ignorance. Ignorance only through reasoning. Then all the destructive emotion ultimately based on ignorance. So therefore, you see, we can remove all this ignorance through wisdom. Wisdom based on logic, logical approach. So now, a meditator, a scientist, certainly, I think, should be 럽초그래. 곰장에시나 그 짜가시는 곰적으로 와. 그 새로 쳐도 와.
So a true meditator, of course, does focused meditation as well as analytical meditation. So from the point of view of doing analysis into the nature of things, I mean, they could also be scientists.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much.
Yes,
どうもありがとうございました。さあ、それでは法皇様、
Thank you very much.
お時間があと
Your Holiness,
分ぐらいですが、
we have only about 10 minutes
会
remaining.
場からの、質問は、
Yes,
大変短い時間
from
で
the
恐縮ですが、
floor,
法皇様、それからパネ
for a
リストの
short
先生方へのご質問がおあり
we
の方は
would、like
今マイク
to
が
open the floor for
会場通路
questions
に用意
to
され
take
ますので、
questions
早い
addressed
も
to
の順でござい
His
ます。
Holiness
しかも
or
時間に
panelists.
限り
It
が
will
ございますの
be
で、
first come,
今
first
マイ
served
クが
basis.
立ったところにどうぞ順に。
So at the microphone stand,
Also,
please come to the microphone stand if you wish to ask a
ど
question.
なたの
Please hurry and come to the microphone stand, and please also indicate to whom you are asking questions.
To welcome. Yes.
マイクがございます。こちらに。
There are microphones.
それではご準備できましたら最初の
So
ご質
as
問お
soon
願いいた
as
します
you are ready, please start your question.
モンゴル人なんですけど、
I am from Mongolia. I would like to ask for Mongolian
そのまま
translation.
ご質問いただければ法皇様には通訳いたします。
There will be translation if you continue speaking.
次でも大丈夫ですので。
I can wait until the
じゃあ
next
次の方行きましょうか。
opportunity. The next person with a question, please.
Yes. Your Holiness, my question is about clear light for you and the scientists. From the age of when I was 2 to 3, I had a dream every night that I died and experienced the clear light. I was a monk in that dream. My question is, the scientists have said space and time emerges from nothing, that in our universe the constant is light, that light is the only exception that can propagate in a vacuum. And Einstein intuited the theory of relativity from observing light. I'm wondering if you could talk to us about the origins of the clear light in terms of Buddhist science, and also perhaps how we could learn from our experience of the clear light in meditation.
クリアライトという意味は光明の心という意味です。ですので非常に微細なレベルの意識のことを例えて光明の心と言っています。
The very subtle level of mind and the light that you see at the very subtle level of consciousness.
カルジね。オッケーオッケー。だけの彼。メインポイント。 Oh. Oh. I think one method, when we get dream, try to develop, realize I'm dreaming. That's first step. Once you dream time, once you realize now I'm dreaming, I'm state of dream state, then meditate here. The dissolution of the body. Firstly, you see the grosser level, then more subtle level, go like that. Because dream time, the grosser level of consciousness already dissolved. So then much easier to dissolution, more subtler level of consciousness. So that one method. I try some occasion, but fail. So, oh, what another point? Love the injury.
So your question was basically about the origin of clear light.
That's why you see no room of creator. Indian Hindus, self, independent self, no beginning. Buddhist viewpoint also, you see, the consciousness, no beginning. And grosser level of consciousness, yes, there's a beginning. Consciousness related with this body, till body start, that consciousness not there. Then when body sort of element dissolve, brain dissolve, then that level of consciousness disappear. Then new body, but subtle consciousness is independent from this brain, from this body. So no beginning, no end. Then if you say, why nature? The particle, no beginning. Why nature? Okay. Yes. Next question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
では次の方お願いいたします。
The next question, please.
Асуулт гэхээсээ илүү танаас гуйх хүсэл байна. Загчин түмний маань одоо монголчууд гэгэнтэн хувилгаан гэж ярьдаг, манайхаар бол гэгэн гэж ярьдаг. Тэр хүн маань тодорхохгүй дөрвөн үеийг үзээд байгаамаа. Та тэр хүнийг тодруулж буулгаж өгөх талаар аврал ивэлдээ авч хайрлаач. Бид нар хаанаас ирж олвол тэр хүнтэй нутаг усандаа залах боломжтой вэ? Аавын маань хүсэл байгаамаа. Болгоож өгнө үү?
Vale. 다 라메 영식 문진샤 아니 안도 별이야 캄라 내 모습을 남아지게 공기 영식 문진샤디 다야 집어 로니슈 레네 아니 집어디기 잡아다 즉 시가 근데 여디디 고다 패지다 땡큐를 쳐그러 로니슈스리도 고 소도를 찬주고 인 되지 인 라메 영생 문제 차지 공들으시기도 내가 하고 싶은 통수 신 신주간의 영생 문제 차 아니 뭐 벽을 남아지고 손이야리 가서 주기 문제 치도 남자 자신 도대스 공매 샴진 슈도 서버팅이 쫓았어
Тэгээд одоо хувилгааныг тодруулах тал дээр бол ер нь хувилгааныг одоо нас биеинд хүрсэн хойно нь одоо хувь хүн болж төлөвшсөн хойно нь одоо энэ хувилгааныг тодруулдаг ийм уламжил одоо манай төвдөд байсан. Энийг би илүү их одоо чухалчилж илүү одоо зөв арга гэж боддгоо. Тэгэхгүй бол одоо багад нь хувилгаанаар тодруулцдаг. Тэгээ одоо нөгөө хүүхэд нь одоо ном үзэхгүй зөв одоо явдлаар явахгүй хожим одоо том болсон хойно буруу явдлаар явж шашин амьтанд одоо хорлох юм тохиолдол гардаг. Тийм учраас хувилгаанаар тодруулах ажлыг нас биеинд гүйцсэн хойно хувь хүн болж төлөвлөсөн хойно одоо тодруулах хэрэгтэй гэж боддөг юм аа.
Одоо соёралээ да 나션 진짜야 베스트 진짜 도시야 용기열에 아니 자갈 허절에 소불 저기 걸어열에 아니 라인에 지 때문에 가서래 벤제분이야 아니 저와체 아니 갈래 아니 미게 롬니 70에 나로네 지 다도 참아 싸워진데 근데 용식이 아니 이거 무슨 쳇으로 대쇼
За тэгээд ер нь бол одоо Монголд ламдар ном үзэж байгаа мөн одоо энтхийн өмнөд энтхийгт ялангуяа одоо гомон тацанд олон одоо монгол хүүхдүүд ном үзэж байгаа. Тэр хүүхдүүд дотроос одоо ном сайн үзэж байгаа хүүхдүүдээс одоо хувилгаан байж болох хувилгааны хойдроор тодорч болох ийм хүүхдүүдийг одоо судалж үзэх хэрэгтэй гэж.
Ямар шинж тэмдэг байгаа бол тэр талаар хэлж өгөх боломж байна уу? Цаг хугацаанд хийдээд.
Next.
네, 안녕하세요. 이미지를 떠올려서 명상을 하라고 할 때, 그렇게 명상을 지도할 때, 그러니까 관상 명상을 할 때 이미지를 떠올리는 것에 대해서 어려움을 겪는 사람들이 있습니다. 그럴 때 어떻게 그들을 지도하면 좋을까요?
예, 명상
뭐지 가서 넣이 봐. 지 고문기 미견이야. 잠에도 가리네 용구래. 아니 간다다 미견디 아니 아니 이제 타는 게 군중만 러스인 장로다. 장로다. 거기네 가다 지금 그게 빼는 메도도 공부해 있나? 메도그라도 스미 때니 로 지시도 돼 제가 있는데 할검세리 그 고말이 메도 되게 넘바 직 로리야 영으로도 샤하시네 뒤 튼지 로리야 샤트바 대미견신이 인텔리아 제시도 셈 줘버려 오늘 또 있겠지
헬로 계실라? 제가
그래서 주시. 알레, 전 리브리. Okay. Next question.
Yes. Thank you very much for coming Japan. 日本語で話します。
I will speak in Japanese. I have a question. Science has developed so much, but the world is not getting better. What was wrong? How did we go wrong? What can we do? Despite science, world is not getting better.
The existing modern education, as well as science sort of research, as I mentioned this morning, very much outward, look outside. The modern education very much oriented about material value. And then similarly, the scientists also come from that kind of education. So they always think external thing. As this morning I mentioned, you see, we are lacking fuller knowledge about our inner world, our emotion. The most of the problem world facing is emotion. World, we can say, passing through some kind of emotional crisis. So now we have to start in education about our mind, about our inner world. Usually I describing we need in education like hygiene of physical in our education there. Similarly, in education, we need hygiene of emotion. Then, from kindergarten level, children, know something about our inner world and how to tackle this emotion. Not related with religious belief. Without religious belief, consider as an academic subject. That we really need. Then? Yes?
Oh, thank you
very
much.
Okay. My question is for you. You are a physicist. That's why you talk about Heisenberg's uncertain principle. That's why you talk about something, data X and the data P, there's the uncertain principle. That's why it's position the moment is that uncertainty. That's why it's Heisenberg's model theory is something else, just like any quantum theory, just like a dish game. But Einstein never accept something like that. Do you think something every and quantum level, if you got at every just like this game, it is uncertainty, everything. It's just comes as the Pacifico says something like that. Everything is dependent on your consciousness. They are not external thing. That's why others, the mathematics also say something like everything is just impermanent, and everything we cannot say it is not exist by its own, but everything is just a name and put a nominate. That's how do you think something like that? Could you tell me experience about something like that?
Your description is very long. I think I agree with that. At the very last, I think I also want to refer to the question we discussed earlier with the wisest about the moon, for example. If the moon we reduce it to particles, whether the moon exists or not. So I think this is the traditional view in philosophy since the Greek. They would want to reduce everything in terms of the smallest component. This is like the it from it, I would say. You want to explain the it is the universe from it. I mean, because of quantum mechanics, this relation now is changed. We don't think it from it, but we think it's it from bit. So existence comes from not just the existence of the carrier of a reality, but also depends on the correlation, entanglement between the reality. So the relation is very important. So if we reduce the moon into fundamental individual particle, we cannot really see the moon itself. Just like the earliest question about consciousness, if we reduce to molecule or protein, we cannot see the emergence of consciousness. So it comes from relation of, so we say it from bit now. If something you want to take home, not it from it, but it from bit.
Soja image chaba de tog ninge tanda ngado DNA yorwa DNA da duzucha concentration the 4 elements and the check do and the hydrogen, nitrogen, and the oxygen, and the 4 element constitute the carbon the constitute. The nebeja soja duma do chaba de ngado sodium the formation the particle dinning in control nebeja way na tigi soja do the consciousness the nature the nebeja do. She said, DNA two just teaching another time DNA Yorwa. In a call same Maduade, nervous system, the Maya, the so dical to your marvest.
Thank
you very much. The next question.
Hi, Your Holiness. I'm Shen Yuan from Taiwan. I'm.
So the Venerable was actually asking a question to you, perhaps. When His Holiness asked, what actually makes a difference? What's the difference between those that have consciousness or those that are sentient and those that are non-sentient, inanimate objects? And he was actually saying that even in science, when you when you explain or describe DNA, it's composed of 4 different elements or something like hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon dioxide or something like that. And so just because we have all these 4 together doesn't mean that there could be consciousness as such. And so for something to be conscious or sentient, I mean, on top of these, there needs to be a consciousness as well. So what actually kind of constitutes that which can support consciousness or not?
I think that is one of the factors that we know to exist, but we don't still know yet. And that comes from the method of the science and the fact of the sciences. In short, the response to that is that analysis, the way to dissect the things, like moon to the particle, and the synthesis, to integrate the particle to the moon, for example, is not the complete reverse functions. In the reduction process, there's many things to be lost during it. And we cannot describe by the component of the particles. But if you integrate all those, there are emergent property, but you referred to, and that comes into places. And these loss and gains during analysis and synthesis, and we, the scientists, the modern scientists, still don't know that. I would think and hope that religions have been, through the thousands of years of history, have some insight to this. We call it hysteresis. It's not a complete reverse function of analysis and synthesis. And that, I think we need meditation to do the science. And that would be the integration of the holy system of the world. Can this be the answer to that?
Hmm? ではご質問の方お待たせいたしました。ご質問一つでお願いいたします。
Thank you for waiting.
Your Holiness, I'm Shen Yuan from Taiwan. I'm also a student of Master Ri Chang of Bliss Wisdom. I have another role, which is founder of a software company. So I admire greatly, to having today's dialogue with scientists. I can see greatly that you try to understand the scientific worldview from a Buddhist point of view. But my question is, today, both science and also technology is affecting society very much. As you all probably know, like AI, robotics, these things are going to probably replace many jobs in the near future and causing a lot of maybe social unrest. So my question is, from a technologist, how can we as technologists can also understand or promote the understanding of different points of view from maybe religious and to understand better religious or these social compassion point of views from scientists and technologists. How can we as these people, or how can we also promote and advocate this kind of understanding and point of view? Thank you.
I think I already mentioned, you see, the scientists, they, number of scientists, they consider basic human nature is more compassionate. That also is one occasion, meeting with scientists while we are discussing. One scientist, they love so. I think I already mentioned the other day. I think the other day I already mentioned. Say on cartoon to show one 6-month-old. I already mentioned, I think. So therefore, I feel the scientists, their view, basic human nature is more compassionate. And then also, you see, constant anger is eating our immune system. These are scientists to say now, medical scientists. Then our daily experience, more compassionate mind, self-confidence becomes stronger. More self-confidence and more optimistic, and you carry your life more truthful, more honest. That brings trust from others. That's the basis, happy family, happy life. So the compassion machine cannot produce. I think no matter how sophisticated computer, I don't think ability to show us if you, the beautiful sort of the mobile or something, computer, and show your kindness, your affection. I don't think the machine have the ability to respond more affection. I don't think. Animal, when you show affection, they also respond. Like you say, diamond ring, if you, like that, I think diamond ring is no ability to return to you affection. I think.
So by us exhibiting more compassion towards technologists, they will also act in kind.
So technology useful for our life. Life become more easier because of technology and information. I think technology really bring whole world something, one human community, and also global economy. East, future of East depend on West, Western future depend East. Similarly, North, South. So technology, I think, really brings the 7 billion human beings, one human community. Useful. Then, meantime, you see, through education, you see, we should, education on the basis of scientific sort of finding, try to strengthening basic human nature, human compassion. I think the mistake is basic human nature, compassionate. Children, after birth, their survival entirely depend on mother's care, mother's affection, including mother's milk. Then 2 years, 3 years, 4, 5 years, then gradually join education. In education, should include further sort of explanation or loving kindness which you receive from your mother is so important for you. So this, for human society, very much useful, that sort of affection. So basic human nature, the compassionate mind there. Now human intelligence used through education, strengthening that basic human nature, loving kindness. That we can do. Not a question of religion, but a question of how to build happy individual, happy family, happy community, finally, happy humanity. That's the only way. Making more money, making more weapon, more fear. So, present sort of conditions already. A situation, if you have money and country level, if you have more weapon, more army, air force, there's something, or there's something, how should they use, something good for your nation. It's wrong. As I mentioned earlier, Western world, their future depends on Eastern world. Similarly, like that. So therefore, now we have to think, we have to educate from kindergarten. You see, oneness of 7 billion human beings. That's very important. So basic human nature, more compassionate nature there, now use human intelligence, further strengthening. That we can do. We already committed in India, try to start the curriculum, education system. Should include education about our inner value. Like that. Okay.
Thank you very much.
And once we, in India, you see, more concrete sort of, also the curriculum about inner world, these things they finalize. Or the next year, we're going to have some sort of meeting, mainly educationists, in Delhi. So some of you can join. And then eventually, you see the Kasada, at least in Japan, I think 1 or 2 schools follow or adopt that also the curriculum. And look what kind of sort of effect after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. If you see that use that kind of curriculum, some positive effect to this student, then you can expand more school, like that. So if we just remain here, some problem happen, complain, not thinking. You see, they more investigate what is the sources of our problem, whether there is a way to overcome that or not. If there's no way to overcome, then okay, sleep, alcohol, because of drugs. But all these problems, you see, due to lack of moral principle, that we can teach. Basic human nature is more positive, so we can also further develop these things. Not talking about religion, not talking about next life, not talking Buddha, not talking God. Simply how to create happy humanity, peaceful world, in the sense of truly the human sense of human brothers, sisters. We are same human being. Emotionally, physically, or mentally, 7 million human beings are same. Okay, like that.
Thank you very much.
This will be the last question.
To see Holiness. My name is Jang from South Korea. And
North Korea.
South Korea.
South Korea.
Yeah. I feel it's like Naranda School of Buddhism real life here in Yokohama. It's my sincere hope, I wish to see you in South Korea next year. And my question is, my elder brother passed away in June, and I feel sorrowful still today. And in Korean temple, Buddhism, we chant Diamond Sutra for deceased person, for our ancestors. I practice Diamond Sutra every day, so I'm not sure whether it is helpful for my elder brother.
It is our tradition. It is good. But important is, it is very sad to see your brother now pass away. Now you should determine, I must fulfill the wish of my late brother. When my teacher passed away, usually, you see, my teacher consider something like solid rock I can lean. So after he passed away, then instead of sad, I try to determine I must fulfill the wish of my late teacher. Now I have to fulfill his wish. So the sadness transforms willpower, determination. So you also, you see, can do that. Okay?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
それではこれが最後の質問となります。よろしくお願いいたします。
The very last question.
日本人です。
I am Japanese.
37歳の引きこもり当事者なんですけども、
I am
自分のことじゃなくて
staying
ですね、
at home, not
友人で
going out at
30年以上引きこもってて、
not myself, but there is a friend of mine who's 37 years old who has mental illness and who has been withdrawn in his home, and he is damaged mentally, and from religious perspective, from Tibet, or from psychological care perspective, with the knowledge and wisdom of Tibetan wisdom, what is possible in terms of mental and psychological care?
Nowadays, I met a number of people who complain about their sort of the mental peace. So this, as I already mentioned, our existing education is not complete in order to build healthy human being. So individual who come through that kind of education and live that kind of materialistic society, some problem there, then difficult to tackle. Then simple message is, one Buddhist master say, when you face some problem, analyze whether that problem can overcome through effort or not. If there is possibility to overcome, then instead of worry, work hard to overcome that problem. If that problem, no way to overcome, then no use too much worry. It's very simple, very realistic. The other day at Dharamsala, one lady, one Tibetan, of course, you see, she really complained, too much worry. Then I half sort of joke, I asked, where is I? Where is self? And she said, self is here. Then I asked, is round or square? Then she said, round here. Then I told her, oh, that because of the self, round self, there is beside that sound, that sort of round, you visualize me also together there. I told her, and she may feel not lonely in her sort of heart. The Dalai Lama always there. So I just mentioned like that. But otherwise, you see, through years, you see, never pay attention about our inner world. Then, facing some problem. There is no way, even I think Buddha come here, one sort of disturbed person asked some blessing. No blessing to Kasura change constantly. No. only training. So we, whole generation, I think, lacking, pay more attention about the inner world. So then these problems come. And difficult, you see, to remove that instantly. Okay.
Thank you very much.
どうもありがとうございました。まだま
Thank
だ
you
ご質
very
問をお
much,
待ちの
Your
皆様いらっ
Holiness.
しゃいますが、
I
大変申し
am
訳ござい
sure
ません。
that there
お時間
are
にも限りがご
many
ざいま
people
して、
with
またぜひ
questions,
ご質
but
問の機
we
会に恵まれますよ
apologize
うに
sincerely.
申し訳
We
ございません。
have a limitation of time. I hope that there will be future opportunities to ask questions.
名誉教授でいらっしゃいます藤田光寛様にご挨拶を頂
I
戴い
would
た
like
し
to
ます。
ask Mr. Kokan Fujita to say closing remarks.
失礼いたします。
Thank you for this opportunity. I am Fujita. Thank you very much to all the eminent participants. If I may, I will offer the closing remarks at the city of Yokohama. This was a 3-day public teaching about dialogue and emotion with His Holiness. I shall be very brief in my closing remarks, but I would like to express my gratitude. Your Holiness, this is the autumn season, which is beautiful with colorful leaves. Tibet House Japan has kindly organized this event in Yokohama. J. Rinpoche Egin, Kamada Shida, Baba Naklada. There was the dialogue on day 1. On day 2, the emotion of Buddhism. And day 3, this was a dialogue with scientists. We had the honor of participating. We enjoyed your wonderful speech. Yesterday it was a Bodhisattva. Your Holiness, and to the 3 scientists, to ladies and gentlemen, to the organizers, thank you very much indeed. Your Holiness, in order for us to live in peace, how we can live, how we can overcome our sufferings and difficulties, the Buddhist teaching, from the Buddhist perspective, you are advocating. Your Holiness, you are deeply interested in modern science. From about 30 years ago, you are continuing the dialogue with scientists. At this time, cognitive science, neuroscience, physics, from the 3 areas you have engaged in a dialogue. There was the dialogue about the relationship between matter and the mind, about how to think about space, scientific research on mediation, relationship between religion and science. There was a very passionate discussion. There were a large number of questions from the audience. And thank you very much for kindly responding to all the questions. From tomorrow, Tokyo, Fukuoka, and in other places, there will be events with your presence, including prayers and ceremonies. You are very busy, but please enjoy the nice autumn scene of Japan. I would like to thank Maria Linja for the translation English, Chinese, Korean, Mongolian, Russian, and all the interpreters. Thank you very much. And Lontok-san of Tibet House, thank you very much to all the staffs. I would like to thank everybody.
Thank you.
With the cooperation of all of you, we are about to end this event. Thank you very much indeed.
Lastly, I want to remind you, as a Buddhist, Buddha said, you are your own master. Future entirely depends on yourself. even Buddha cannot do. So each individual keep a more optimistic attitude, not sort of pessimistic way. So with determination, optimism, we are human beings. As far as brain is concerned, Nagarjuna's brain and our brain is same. He become great master, great practitioner because of human brain and the teaching of Buddha. We also have it's the same human brain. And Buddha's teaching we can learn. So therefore, the opportunity like Nagarjuna, Aryandeva, they sort of great master. I think they utilize the good opportunity fully. So eventually they become great practitioner, great master, result, very, very happy person. So we also have the same potential, same opportunity, isn't it? So, you see, keep more enthusiasm, more determination. And Japanese people, generally speaking, hard-working. So not, you see, use your energy, just a machine or something. Of course, daytime, you have to spend your work for salary. But the morning, at least, it's 1 hour, 30 minutes or 1 hour, think more about our inner world. That's important. Then, last 2 days, my explanation also may sort of help a little bit. So think this line. Then, change our mind will not take place within few days or few weeks. Weeks, months, years thinking, then gradually our mind can change. Result, a person become much more happier. Okay, thank you.
どうもありがとうございました。最後にまた法皇様から大変ありがたいお言葉を頂戴いたしました。ではここで法皇様に今日も花束の贈呈でございます。花束は法皇様もご出演いただきました映画地球交響曲ガイアシンフォニーの辰村仁監督です。
movie in which His Holiness appears, we have Mr. Jin Tatsumura to present a flower.
Thank
you very much. And 3 scientists will also be presented with a flower bouquet. We thank the 3 scientists. Dr. Iriki, Professor Chon Sun-chu, and Professor Sakiko Yoshikawa were the 3 scientists. Thank you very much. His Holiness is now leaving us.